Good morning and welcome to our celebration of Kali Puja. We have a very nice program. We'll start with chanting by the Sarada Nuns, then SCHNERRING's talk on science, contradictions and Kali, then talk by SRIDHARAPRANA on understanding Mother Kali, and then the candlelight offering ceremony with the nuns leading us in some sacred chants. And then you're invited to stay back and get a share of the offered sweets and savories. So we'll now get it underway with some chanting by the Sarada Nuns.
We are chanting from Chandi, the first hymn to the Divine Mother, Mahakali. Om Tvam Swaha Tvam Swadha Tvam Hiva षट्कार Swaratmika Sudha Tvam Akshare Nitye Tridha Matratmika Sthita Ardha Matra Sthita Nitya Yanucharya Visheshatah Tvameva Satvam Savitri Tvam Deva Janani Para Tvayaitat Dharyate Vishvam Tvayaitat Srijyate Jagat Tvayaitat palyate devi tvamasyante cha sarvada visrishtau srishti rupa tvam sthiti rupa cha palane tatha samhriti rupante jagatosya jaganmaye mahavidya mahamaya mahamedha mahasmritihi mahabhoha cha bhavati mahadevi mahasuri prakritistvam cha sarvasya gunatraya vibhavini kalaratrir maharatrir moharatrischa daruna tvam shristvamishwari tvam hristvam buddhir bodhalakshana lajja pushtistvatastushtistam kshanti kshantirevacha khadgini shulini ghora gadini chakrini tatha shankini chapini bana bhushandi parighayuda saumya saumyatarashesha saumyebhyastvati sundari Paraparanam Paramatmameva Parameshwari Yaccha Kinchit Kvachidvastu Sadasadvakhilatmike Tasya Sarvasya Ya Shakti Satvam Kim Stuyase Maya Yaya Tvaya Jagat Srashta Jagat Patatiyo Jagat Sopi Nidravasham Nitha Kastvam Stutumihishwarah Vishnu Sharira Grahanam Ahamishanaya Yevacha Karitaste Totastvam Kastotum Shaktiman Bhavet Satvam Itham Prabhavai Svairudarai Devi Samstuta Mohayaito Dhuradharsha Vasuro Madhukaitavau Prabodam Cha Jagat Swami Niyatam Achyuto Laghu Bodhascha Kriyatamasya Hantumetau Mahasurau.
So now invite SCHNERRING to come and give his talk.
Oh, that's right at the end. Yeah. Might take that out at some point. Revered Matajis, everyone else, welcome. It's my privilege and honor to do an introductory talk on Kali. Now, just a short caveat, this is not intended to be some erudite treatise on Kali or on science, far from it. What it is just some observations or a point of view at this particular point in time, and it's always open to change. So it's just some, now, a little bit of background. Okay, I might take that out at some point. Last Friday night's Gita class was quite interesting because we did chapter 8, verses 9 and 10. And part of the commentary I thought was appropriate was that God is unthinkable. You can't bring God to the realm of thought. The ultimate reality is beyond thinking. But we try, it's a question I asked Gayatri Pranaji. We give some form to Brahman. We take some aspect and give it some form so that we can try and get an understanding of this ultimate reality. And in doing so, like you could use any form you like, but you know, a block of wood's hardly going to get you very far. So we give it some sort of human form. We give it, it has some action or some action that it has done. And that allows us to sort of try and get an understanding. But it's not enough to just simply have a person standing there. That's sort of, what does that do? It's got to be that there's something about that form that actually reflects the ultimate reality as it's projected into the universe that we have in front of us. So what I'm going to do is take a couple of aspects of Kali and just look at how that reflects the world that we have as part of how Brahman reflects into this universe. So the first thing is, might be easier to take this, get that out. Now, the first thing we have is Kali is standing on Shiva. Now, some readings I've found from Wikipedia said that, oh, there's reasons for why it's 1 foot on there and she's doing something. But the one I like, and I remember Vajrayapana Mataji always said this, Kali is dancing on Shiva. Now, when we look at Shiva, he's lying back. He's just relaxed, laid back. He's not doing anything. That can be likened to potential energy. And Kali is upright, so already that implies not relaxed. And that, but if she's dancing, then that's kinetic energy. But it's more than that. If Kali is a representation of some aspect of the ultimate reality, then it covers all forms of energy that we've got in front of us. Kinetic energy, electromagnetic energy, which is visible light, gamma rays, X-rays, radio waves, infrared, electricity, nuclear energy, chemical energy. But I'll just deal with, at this point, just the kinetic energy aspect. So Stephen Hawking says that the universe starts from a singularity. So we've had the Big Bang, and before the Big Bang, there's a singularity. Now that already does my head in, because try to imagine that everything that we see in this material universe, and to get an idea of the size of it, there's a famous photograph I think they took from the Hubble telescope where they pointed it into what appeared to be a speck of empty space. There was nothing there. So long time exposure into that spot. And when they developed it and expanded it, they just went, count the number of galaxies. There were thousands in what appears to be almost a tiny little spot of blackness. So you go, how big is the universe? Now, all of this is pushed into a singularity, which by definition is no size, but it contains everything in the universe, infinite mass. So that's already, I'm finding that a contradiction, but that seems to be what it is. Now, if we say that Shiva is potential, and then that he's there before the Big Bang, and you go, okay, that's fine. And it's almost, I think some pictures of him, he's got this sort of subtle smile on his face as if he goes, I know it's coming next, bang, you know, we're going to release all of this and create a universe. And then Kali is the universe expanding. So that's on one, so we can look at it on a cosmological level. But I think if we go to everyday kinetic energy and potential energy, if Kali and Shiva are with us the entire time. Now, I was going to try and drop this off something, but maybe it's easier just to come down to this little cliff with my little car so we can all see it. Sitting here, that is potential energy, Shiva. So as it goes over, it falls down and it's back to resting. So it'll go further, but the floor gets in the way, stopping it going to the center of the earth. So up here, we have Shiva, and on the way down, it's going to Kali and then comes back to Shiva. So the two are interacting all the time. Now, I was going to suggest audience participation. Anybody who feels like standing up can do so. No. Okay. All right. I'll go to the next idea. Who thinks that walking is just putting one foot in front of the other? Well, it isn't. It's if I put one foot in front of the other, I'm not going anywhere. I've actually got to do that. So what happens is the center of mass has to go forward and I catch it with my foot. So in the horizontal plane, as I walk along, it's kinetic energy. So that's Kali. But in the vertical plane, it's Shiva. And the two are interacting the entire time. As I go forward with my foot horizontally, I'm also a fall, which I'm catching, so that the two interact the entire time. It's not like this Kali and Shiva. It's this constant exchange of one for the other. Same with riding a bicycle. Riding along, the horizontal movement is kinetic energy, and it's Kali. But in the vertical plane, I want to stay as Shiva. I don't want to go down, because if I fall off the bicycle, I'm converting that potential to kinetic, and when I hit the ground, it's going to hurt. So I want to stay upright. So in one sense, I want to be Shiva. In the other sense, I want to be Kali. I want to be both. And that kinetic and potential interacts the entire time in the everyday world. And I think it's so subtle, especially with walking, we don't even realize it. We just do it all the time. And it's the both are there. And it's the same with the representation we have there. Kali on top of Shiva. And the two together, for me, is really important. One without the other makes a whole lot less sense. Because if we want to have some form that represents some aspect of the ultimate reality, then the two together give a much better representation of what happens in physics than if you just had one without the other. So for me, both together is really important. So now let's move on to what happens at the micro level. Let's get down to subatomic. At quantum level, this is where it gets really weird. There's contradictions all over the place if you just look at it. And I should mention that the other part of Kali that I think at first glance, when you first look at her, have a look at the left arm. Got a sword up here, and we've got a head down here. Okay, that's one thing. On the other hand, the right hand up in greetings, the other hand down showering blessings. And you're going, well, hang on a minute, what's going on here? You've got, is this schizophrenic? What is this? Is sort of going, oh, bless you, my child, let me cut off your head. You're going, I'm sure this is going to be covered by SRIDHARAPRANA, and I've got, I'll come to that. But just at initial glance, this is contradictory. Well, okay, let's have a look at what happens in the quantum level. For starters, E = mc squared, Einstein's famous equation. Energy and matter are interchangeable. We can swap one for the other. Well, when we look at what I'm standing on here and the chairs we're sitting on, we don't even see the energy or the potential that could be kinetic, that there could be energy in there. We just think it's matter. It's just a solid lump that doesn't do anything. So the other thing is matter solid? I'm taking this from Friedrich Capra, actually, this description. Well, when you look at the structure of the atom, imagine the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral, or if you like, take the Vatican, St. Peter's. I mean, that's bigger, and they like to show you that their cathedral's bigger than everybody else's, because marked on the floor is the points where the other ones fit inside. So such egos. But if you take the dome, now at the center of the dome, put a P. That's the nucleus, the proton and the neutrons. And take some specks of dust and scatter them around the dome. They are the electrons. That is the structure of the atom. It's mostly nothing. It's just space. You go, oh, it doesn't. How does matter then? How do the chairs we're sitting on, the floor, this on stage I'm standing on, this lectern here, the walls and the doors, we can't walk through them. So why does it appear solid? One, it's the way in which the atoms pack themselves together. They don't just sit in a line and then another line alongside, because that would leave a line of space up the middle, like the aisle through the chairs. They're staggered around each other to form a structure. But more than that, the protons, neutrons, electrons are all vibrating quite rapidly. And it's that movement that actually also gives a sense of solidity, like a rotating propeller will look like a solid disk, even though it isn't. So the notion that matter is so much space rather than, totally solid, appears to be one contradiction. It actually explains how you can manage to get a black hole by simply, if you get as much of that space out, and you can collapse it down to a singularity, and so clearly under gravity that seems to be possible. Another contradiction at the micro level are photons. Now, photons are particles of light with zero mass. Okay, there's a contradiction. How does a particle have zero? But it does. And they have a duality. Photons are particles. Photons can be waves. They can change in and out. So it's hard to explain, but there's these constant contradictions at the quantum level. It may explain why you can get a black hole so small that if you try to think of particles and squash them down, you can't get a particle smaller than a certain amount. But if you think of it as a wavelength, well, you can have a wavelength of whatever length you like, as small as you can make it, and that'll pack into nothing. But again, it's that duality of photons to be particles or waves that appears contradictory. Another really strange thing is, I call it quantum soup, but it's actually the quantum vacuum or the ground state. We think of a vacuum as nothing, it's empty. Well, apparently a vacuum is not empty. It contains fleeting electromagnetic waves and particles that actually pop into and out of existence. So a vacuum that we think of as being empty isn't empty. It's teeming with these sort of virtual particles. They're not even there, but they are there. It's a pretty weird universe. You can actually demonstrate that these ground state fluctuations exist. There's an experiment, it's called the Casimir effect. And the experiment is you take two sheets, they're quite thin actually, put them in a vacuum. Now, these ground state fluctuations or waves will exist between the plates, and they'll exist outside the plates. Now, the space between the plates is smaller than the space outside the plates. But these virtual particles, you could imagine that you should be able to fit an infinite amount inside the plates and an infinite amount outside the plates. So what difference would it possibly make? Infinity on the inside, infinity on the outside. Well, what actually happens is that you can observe that experiments have shown this, the plates move together, that there's more infinity on the outside than on the inside. So, well, that's got to be a contradiction. So the stuff that's going on at the quantum level is just contradictory. And if you look at Kali, you think, well, there's a contradiction over there. It reflects into the quantum level. The contradictions there are the same as the contradictions at the quantum level, or the apparent contradictions. What about Heisenberg's uncertainty principle? We look at subatomic particles. What we can say is we can say, well, we know where it is, but if we know where it is, we don't know how fast it's going. And if we know how fast it's going, we don't know where it is. We can assign probabilities that says, well, it'll probably be here and it'll probably have this velocity, but we can never be certain. We just don't quite know what's going on at the subatomic level. Just like we can't get our heads around trying to think about Brahman. It's just what we see at the subatomic level reflects what we get in trying to understand Brahman. It's beyond thought. Some of this subatomic stuff seems to be beyond common sense. So the in the material universe at the quantum level, there's a whole pile of contradictions. We've got matter and energy are interchangeable. Matter is mostly empty space. Photons can be particles or waves. Virtual particles pop in and out of existence and appear to exist. There's Stephen Hawking's postulated that if you take a virtual particle and an antiparticle, the two don't exist because you've got a particle and an antiparticle. And by their pair, they don't exist. If they happen to stray too close to the event horizon of a black hole and one of them falls in, well, the other one's free to be. It suddenly pops into existence. It's now hasn't got the other one to cancel it out. It can now be. You know, it's theoretical, but again, it just shows how weird this stuff all is. Now, contradictions at the macro level in our everyday world. Now, it's been said Kali is, you know, is the force of nature. And forces of nature can be beneficial or destructive. Water is needed for life. We need to drink it. If we don't drink it, we die of thirst. We need it to grow crops so we can have food. But as we're experiencing at the moment, too much water and we have floods. Things are destroyed, crops don't grow, crops are ruined, and it's a disaster. Same with fire. We'd like to have fire to keep ourselves warm, to cook food, but too much causes bushfires and destructions or it parches the earth. So same thing, water and fire can be beneficial and they can be destructive. Same with wind. A cool breeze is fabulous on a hot day, but who wants a hurricane or a tornado? We don't. Nuclear energy. Well, nuclear power can, and Stafford would probably have a discussion about this. Theoretically, I say, can provide clean power. Now, we can just ignore what we do with the spent plutonium rods for the moment. But the slackness of the design at Fukushima and the cheap design and the sloppy procedures at Chernobyl created disasters. So, you know, again, nuclear energy could be theoretically be beneficial, but we've seen examples where it's an absolute and utter disaster. So in the material universe, Kali appears both beneficial and destructive, which seems to be pretty much what we're seeing in the depiction there. On one side, beneficial, all these boons and blessings. On the other side, destruction. I'll take your head off. But that's in this material universe. When we get to the spiritual level, the severed head Kali is holding does not represent your head, but your ego, the impediment which anchors you to this material universe and impedes realizing your true nature. Kali is offering to remove that for you, which is a blessing as indicated by the extended hand. Now, the garland of heads shows that, well, she's done this for others before you. Now, the other thing is I noticed that in the depiction of Kali there, the severed head appears to have a smile on its face, as if to go, thank you, you've done me the favor. So that what appears to be a contradiction or duality in the material world is not so at the spiritual level. The apparent contradiction seen in the material world is integrated and unified at the spiritual level. Now, the last one is, if Robert can put this bit up. Yes, this is the Rolling Stones logo. Now, people know who the Rolling Stones are, hopefully. Now, there's several reasons given for why Kali's tongue is extended. My version, the one I like, is that because she represents energy and is constantly moving and never resting, one might consider that'd be a bit tiring. And so her tongue is extended because it's a bit like, you know, hard work. But she's happy to do it, but it's still hard work. Now, it's obviously used in popular culture. The Rolling Stones logo shows the red tongue extended from the red-lipped mouth. The logo apparently symbolizes the anti-establishment message of the group, as in poking your tongue out at something, and Mick Jagger's desire to honor Kali. So it's found its way into popular culture. It's a logo for one of the biggest rock bands on the planet. So that's my talk. Thank you.
I'll do. Om Srimat Sura Suraradhya Charanamburahadvayam Charachara Jagadhatrim Kalikam Pranamamyaham. The great goddess who is the protectress of the whole animate, inanimate universe, whose lotus feet are adored by the gods, demons, and humans alike. To that Kalika, I offer my humble salutations. So Fred has already described Kali's form, so I don't have to go into all those things. But let's try to understand Kali a bit in a different way. Mother Kali, who eludes our understanding, she doesn't come within the framework of our understanding. Still we accept. How? Why? Well, our acceptance of Mother Kali is not the result of elaborate understanding or deep cognition. It's the passion of Sri Ramakrishna for the Mother of the Universe, Ma Kali, that has made us to love her unquestioningly. Bhakti is contagious, Sri Ramakrishna says. And he has passed on to us this love. Or rather, we have inherited this wealth from him. My personal feelings, because I come from South, and South we do not have Kali worship very, very much. We have a sober representation of Divine Mother as Parvati, and different type of. So Kali was a bit astounding for us. But then, when we came in contact with Ramakrishna, as I told you, he just passed his passion to us. And I didn't find any difficulty in accepting Mother Kali. Rather, she became very loving. And sometimes I would say, Ma Kali go, means, oh dear mother. So we started becoming very close, rather. It's a personal feeling which Ramakrishna has given to us, how he used to feel. At least in a rudimentary form, we have got it. And the mystics of Bengal, salutations to them. Wonderful. Their lives are very silent. If they were today, they would have made a big noise. But those days, they were very quiet. We do not have much details about them. But with their music and with their songs and poems, they have made us understand how Mother Kali is, what Mother Kali is. And the songs are so beautiful. And when I started learning Bengali and I started listening to these songs, I was so amazed with this meanings of the songs that every day, 2 years I was in Sarada during my training period, almost 18 months of that, at least. Every evening I used to sit on the terrace, and from our terrace we could see the dome of Mother Kali's temple. The top we could see from our Sarada terrace, and I would look at it and I used to by heart, and that has become really a boon, or it is something to hold on. So the topmost, those 3 or 4 domes, we can see from our Sarada Mat, because it's so close. We are so close to Mother Kali. So I used to really enjoy. Then, of course, when I became full-fledged nun, I had the opportunity of doing Mother Kali's Puja twice. Mother Kali gave me this opportunity, and it was wonderful experience. Full mind you have to give for it. So during those time, I hardly was aware of what was happening in the world, let alone world, even in Mutt, what's happening to others. I was, not that I was indifferent, but I couldn't give my mind to anything. So absorbing was the ritual and the practice and the wonderful mantras. And I used to feel as if I'm getting new energy from it. Such profound and powerful mantras they are. So I was just saying, ordinary people we are. And if we can be benefited so much from this, what to speak of Sri Ramakrishna? So it is told that the form of Mother Kali is very enigmatic, and that the modern minds recoil in horror and disgust. Of course, this is apt to happen for the unthinking minds. But the philosophy or the truth of Mother Kali is truly satisfying to our intellect and to our emotions. Of course, as far as understanding the forms of any deity is concerned in Hinduism, there will be always misunderstanding. The other day, there was in 7 News, they were showing Deepavali celebrations. And they showed that there must have in this Paramatta or somewhere, I don't know where it was. Anyway, the form of idol of Radha Krishna was kept there. And people were enjoying and happy. And the reporter was telling, Diwali is a celebration of wife and life. Can you imagine? This is how people can misinterpret. If they can misinterpret Radha Krishna as wife and life, and what to speak of Mother Kali? Amazing people can do who don't think seriously, take things seriously. But of course, there are people, the famous of them is Swamiji himself. He found it very difficult to accept Mother Kali, the young Narendra at that time. He confronted her with all his might. But she was a person to budge. She said that you will come to me one day or the other day. This is a matter of time. And then, of course, we all know the story, how Narendra finally came to Mother Kali and accepted her wholeheartedly. That he says, I have become the slave of Mother Kali. And he would say, completely he surrendered himself to her. And he would to say to Sister Nivedita, you know how much I hated the ways of Kali. But the master made me over to her. And in the later days, he told his disciple Sharat Chandra, you see that power which Sri Ramakrishna used to call Kali, Kali, that entered into me. You remember Sri Ramakrishna gave all his power to Narendra at that time, and he said, today I have given you everything and I have become beggar, fakir. And with this power, you will do wonderful things. Mother will get the things done. So Swamiji said, that Kali power that has entered into this. And that power doesn't allow me to seek my own comforts. It just drags me out of my spiritual contemplations and makes me to work for Jagadithaya, for the good of the world. So you are not for your own mukti. You are there to work for the liberation and for the good of world. Get out, come. Many times Swamiji tried to deep dive into Samadhi. No, every time he would have some obstacle and he had to get out of it and come. So that's Mother Kali. Kinetic energy, making everybody to do, run around. So that is the Mother Kali. Now, let us try to understand a bit through Sri Ramakrishna's words. According to Sankhya philosophy, there are 2 categories. One, the Purusha, which is transcendental, which is equated to Shiva. Shiva is identified as the Purusha, the transcendental. And the other is Pradhana, the point of singularity, what you say, out of which all the galaxies and cosmos, the whole thing has come out. So the Pradhana, this out of which this variegated universe, the whole cosmos has come out, has evolved from it. So that category is designated as Shakti, power, and it is Mother Kali. Shiva is called as Kala, Mother is a feminine of time, Kali. But for Sri Ramakrishna, Mother Kali was not just Prakriti or Shakti. She was the very embodiment of Supreme Brahman. We all know that Sri Ramakrishna came to Kali temple and he was appointed as the priest of Mother Kali. Unlike other priests, he was not working for his bread. When he started worshipping Mother Kali, his inquisitive mind questioned the reality and the truth of this. What is this idol that I am worshipping? Is it just an idol? Is there any reality behind it? So he started questioning. This question, this capacity to reason is very important in one's spiritual life. When we ask the credentials of our body, mind, intellect, and the universe, then only the door to reality opens to us. So Sri Ramakrishna started questioning, who is this? What is the reality behind? Is there any truth in this? And it was not like us. His questioning was not like us. We do question and then, oh, that's okay. We have got many things. It's one among the many things that we want to know, one among the many things which we like. But for Sri Ramakrishna, it was only one. Mother Kali was the only one thing, nothing else. So that 100%, 10%, more than 100% of the investment of all his energy into Mother Kali made his progress quick. And finally, he came to such a position that even a second of delay in the realization was unbearable. So he started literally imploring Mother Kali, reveal thyself. What reality is there behind you? Please reveal. And we know when you read Sri Ramakrishna's life, you can understand the struggle which he went through. And finally, when no response, he took things in his own hand. Okay, can you show me the Mother Kali's picture, Robert? And he said, okay, if you don't listen to me, I will show what it is. So in the Mother Kali's temple, just behind the altar or side towards that picture they have not given. We searched, we couldn't get it. There is a sword of Mother Kali. It is hanging in the temple. It always hangs there. So Sri Ramakrishna went like a madman, took the sword in his hand. Here, I will end up my life if you don't reveal thyself to me. I'm going to put an end to this. And when he was about to kill himself, the mother revealed herself. And Sri Ramakrishna fell down unconscious, of course, to us, to the world or outside, but he had risen to a superconscious state where he did not see the Divine Mother's form. A wave, a unending, limitless source of consciousness, like ocean of consciousness, waves after wave. Supposing you are going in the plane and suddenly you fall into the ocean, how it will be? And the waves are there, and the waves are overwhelming him. We'll be drowned. So literally Sri Ramakrishna's small ego called devotee. Devotee's ego is small, humble, little ego. That ego was submerged into the infinite consciousness of the Mother Kali. And he tried, there is always a resistance. Even Swamiji had resisted when Sri Ramakrishna touched. He said, are you killing me? Oh, I have my parents at home. So because this ego is the one which we are holding on to it. Ego is everything for us. And the death of ego is literally, practically, it's our death. We say we want to get rid of the ego. It isn't easy. We know. Let somebody tell them one thing to us, how the ego will hiss. If that is so, and metaphysically speaking, in reality, if your ego is shaken, how will be your experience? So was Sri Ramakrishna's, the little ego of him, struggled hard, but nothing. At last it was made one into that. The little wave became one with the ocean. And 2 days, 3 days, I don't know how long, then finally when he came out, he was calling Ma, Ma, Ma. What happened was, he says later, out of this vast ocean of consciousness, that light, it got solidified into this beautiful form of the Divine Mother. All blue, almost bordering to black, and pulsating with consciousness, the beauty of it. 1,000 suns can't. At the same time, none can be burnt because it is soothing light. One sun can burn, but 1,000 suns cannot burn because it is spiritual, soothing light. So he had that experience. That convinced him that Mother is Brahman itself. That is why you remember in the gospel when M said that we have to teach people that it is not the stone or mud that we are worshipping, clay that we are worshipping image, but that God in it. But Sri Ramakrishna says, why clay? It is the image of spirit. M says he couldn't understand what is meant by image of spirit, because when Ramakrishna realized, when the mother revealed herself, she revealed in her spirit body. So Chinmayi, he used to call her Chinmayi. Chit was very consciousness solidified. So that was the experience he had. And of course, so in the beginning itself, the very first experience was an Advaitic experience, a sort of Advaitic experience in his own way. He oneness with the mother, and mother is Brahman herself. What more? Then why should there be so many teachers? They only came and confirmed what he had realized was true. This, out of his sheer effort and sincerity, he had come to the truth, but they taught him in the scriptural, according to the scriptures, according to the science, scientifically, according to the scriptural injunctions followed, and he arrived at the same reality which he had already arrived through his sheer yearning. So that's the criterion. And Sri Ramakrishna always, and when people used to go to him, he would take them to Kali temple. He says he took the Brahmos who were against idol worship. So the Brahmos accepted Mother Kali, Narendra accepted the Mother Kali, and many more. In the gospel, you see him, a Vedanta monk, coming to Sri Ramakrishna. So though he is a Vedanta monk, he was good enough to go with Sri Ramakrishna and salute Mother Kali with folded hands, and they won't fall at the feet, on the ground and worship. Just he did this. So Sri Ramakrishna was very happy. And he says, Kali Pradhana hai. Pradhana means, I told you, there are two categories. One, the transcendental Purusha of the Sankhya, and the other is the immanent or the relative world. Pradhana, the primordial energy or Prakriti, whatever you may call it. So he said, he is a Vedanta monk. He wouldn't equate Kali to Parabrahma. He said, Kali Pradhana hai. Sri Ramakrishna said, no, Kali is Brahman. And then another time, some gentleman had come and Sri Ramakrishna took him to the Kali temple, as is his custom. He used to always take. And then there, the gentleman, after looking at the Mother Kali, he said, oh, this idol is made by such and such a sculpture. Sri Ramakrishna said, I do not know. I know her as Chinmayi. Janiyamini Chinmayi. I know her as consciousness, the very embodiment of spiritual awareness, consciousness. So, and it was Sri Ramakrishna's habit. He was very humble. He never appropriated teacherhood, Gurugiri, he never made. He used to quote the saints, and he would explain the intricate philosophy through their songs. So today I'm sharing 3 songs from Ram Prasad and others. It's beautiful songs. Most of you know. These great mystics, their poems and songs are highly philosophical and highly devotional. And one is, you all know it, Ke Jane Re Kali Kemon. This is a song. It's a highly philosophical song. I'll read the translation. Who is there that can understand Mother Kali is, what Mother Kali is? Because Kali doesn't come within the realm of understanding, intellect. She is the one who is giving the consciousness to the intellect. The intellect is aware. Awareness is derived from the consciousness of God. It is conscious in the consciousness of the Mother Kali. So how can it, the finite can never absorb or understand the infinite. That is what is meant by this. Who is there that can understand what Mother Kali is? Even the 6 systems of philosophy are powerless to reveal her. The Shad Darshanas, the 6, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa, these are the 6 schools of philosophy in Hinduism. So none of this will take you to the truth. Sri Ramakrishna says all these are like a list, shopping list. What you want to purchase, you have made a shopping list, and then you go and buy. You go on, buying the thing is what is important. Making the shopping list and reading the shopping list and by-hearting the shopping list is of no use. So by-hearting the scriptures, understanding the scriptures, explaining the scriptures are nothing compared to the realization. And she says, and he says, it is she. The scripture says that is the inner self of the yogi. So she resides in all of us as the Atman, the self in us. And he is immersed in that joy. And she that of her sweet will inhabits everything, everything. Means not just living, living, non-living, animate, inanimate, all. In every atom, she is there. And then he says, look at the language. The macrocosm and microcosm rest in the mother's womb. Now, do you know how vast it is? So you can understand, Fred was telling, the little black hole, tiny, in that how many thousands of galaxies. When it expands, all this is coming. And then, when it's contracted, small black hole, black. When man aspires to understand her, Ram Prasad must smile. To think of knowing her, he says, is quite laughable. As to imagine one can swim across the boundless sea, you may swim on the shores, on the beach. Can we think of swimming ourselves going from this end to that end of the Pacific Ocean? Is it possible? Anyone can say we are a fool. But then such is the nature of the human heart. The human mind can say, oh, yes, true. It's not possible. You know, mind is a small fellow. He is happy, or he accepts the defeat very quickly. Yeah, of course, how can we understand? The mind cannot understand. But the heart is such, it can never be satisfied. It knows, but still it tries. That is why man is, even knowing that we cannot realize God through the intellect or through mind, yet we try to think. In the process of thinking, what happens is the mind becomes subtler and subtler and subtler. Finally, it dissolves. Once the mind is dissolved, no mind, you are one with whom you were striving for. You have become one with the reality. All the problem was because of this mind. Mind was the one which was coming and creating all this duality. When that is gone, you are one with Mother. So all our aim is, all our attempt to purify the mind is to reduce the opaqueness of the mind. The mind is now thick, very thick. very opaque. Why? Because thousands and thousands of worldly things are that. And what's meant by purity? Reducing it, giving a spiritual orientation to the mind and reducing its opaqueness and making the mind transparent and transparent. And how does the mind become transparent? Less thoughts. That is why meditation. All this is involved. These are all the ways Mother Kali is teaching us. That's how you have to come. My child, you come, not your mind. You come, not your ego. I'll cut it off. As Fred said, very hard thing, but that's the only way. No one has ever realized mother sitting under the fan in a AC and enjoying or having a hot cup of chocolate drink. No, you have to pant for the mother, intensely feel her absence, intensely strive for our spiritual nature. Only then. So this is what is meant by purity. And he says, though the mind understands, the heart doesn't. So I still, like a dove, a young, we can't catch the moon, but still we want to catch the moon. Every child wants to catch the moon. So because human heart is never satisfied until and we reach our source. Then there's another beautiful song full of devotion, love. That is Bhav Ki Bhive Puran Gelo. There's a beautiful song. These songs are very, very, unless you know the language, you cannot, but still I'll try. My mind is overwhelmed with wonder, pondering the mother's mystery. Her very name removes the fear of Kala, that is time. Time, the all-devourer. Death himself. And beneath her feet, Mother Kali, beneath her feet is Mahakal, Shiva. Shiva is time, the great time. Everything comes in time, everything goes in time. See, the Shiva is, the top portion, the head of the Shiva only is visible. So under her feet is Kal. It's the punning of the words. She is black and her very name removes the fear of death. Kala. Kala is another name of death because in time is the one all devour. Everything comes and everything goes. And under her feet is Mahakal. Why did she become Kalo, black? Her name removes the darkness, that is the fear of death. And under her feet is the great time. And she's dark. It's the language. Only when all this will have meaning when you know the language. There are many forms of black. There are so many black things are there in the world. But she appears astoundingly black, jet black. When contemplated in the heart, she lights the lotus that blooms there. She's black, but the moment you feel the feet, her holy feet, her lotus feet in your heart, the heart blooms, the heart becomes bright, effulgent. That is, there is a revelation of your spiritual nature. Her form is black. She is named Black, Kali, means who is black, blacker than black. But one who beholds her beauty, he can love nothing else. Nothing else is dear. That's the test. You love God and you love the world, that cannot be. Jahan Ram, tahan nahi kaam. Where there is Rama, there is no Kama. Where there is God, there is no lust. So when mother comes, when we perceive mother's beauty, it's a spiritual beauty, nothing else will draw our mind. Shri Krishna said in the Gita, attaining which a yogi does not think there's anything greater than that to be attained. So that's the beauty of the form. And then in wonderment, Ram Prasad asks, where dwells this woman? So amazing. At her mere name, even without seeing, our minds become absorbed. Jarna dekhe naam shune, Just not even seeing her. You don't have to see Lord. Very Lord's name, God's name itself will make our mind absorb in him. So even without seeing Mother Kali, her very name will make us to dive deep into her. So this is, for all this, only one thing is needed. 100% of mind has to be given. The mind, God is very jealous. I am jealous God, as the scripture says. He doesn't share the whole mind he wants. God wants the whole mind, not a single portion of it should be given to anything. If it is given, then we have it. And then finally, there's one more song. Abhay Pade Pran Shopechi. That's a beautiful song. I have surrendered my soul at the fearless feet of Mother. Am I afraid of death anymore? So that's the only thing. The death can chase you anywhere. But once when you reach at the feet of Mother Kali, within that circumference, the death cannot enter. So you have got a compound. You are protected by Mother. So where the death cannot go. So am I afraid of death anymore? Unto the tuft of my hair on my head is tied the almighty mantra, Mother Kali's name. You see, the moment we are born, death is holding our back. All that is born will die one day. So this is the truth. But in that knot, the devotee of Mother Kali ties the Mother Kali's name. So he has pulled out Yama and put Mother Kali's name. I have tied it. And my body I have sold in the marketplace of the world. And with it, I have brought Sri Durga's name. See, in order to go to the Mother, we want to keep everything, protect our all secure. We should be secure. At the same time, we want divine. No, that won't. We have to lose ourselves in order to be with Mother. So this is what, because the reality is one. Two can't be there. You have to die in order to be with Mother. Be one with Mother. Be the Mother herself. So two things won't go together. You have to give up one. That is why Ram Prasad is telling, I have sold my body. That means my ego, my everything I have given up. And I have bought what? This human birth is for the realization of divine. Only in this human birth we can realize, not in any other body. Because the nature has endowed us with all the necessary equipments, the capacity to think, to remember, to imagine, to discriminate, to discern what is right, what is wrong. And finally, the capacity to perceive ourselves in the reality. So this only a human being, the crown of creation. Man is crown of creation. So this is the advantage of being in a human body. So we can buy Mother Durga's or Mother Kali's name. Deep within my heart, I have planted the name of Kali, the wish-fulfilling tree of heaven. And when Yama, the king of death, appears, to him I shall open my heart and show it is growing here. See, the divine mantra, it's here, because Ram Prasad is Mother Kali's devotee, he is saying, we all have got our Ishta mantra. We all are. So that mantra, we have to nurture it. We have to water it with love, devotion, hankering for her, aspiration. With that, and the tree grows. And when the death is there at the door, I say, hey, look, it's here. Open my heart and show this is wish-filling tree of Mother Kali. Your Ishta is growing there. I have cast off all those foes. You know, we have got 6 foes in our body: anger, lust, greed, delusion, arrogance, all this. So these are the foes. I have driven them out of my home. That's from my body. I have made it pure, all this. And now purity is acquired. We have grown the Mother Kali's name. Everything, whatever we can do as human beings in this psychophysical organism, we have done it. We have come to the world. We have made use of this body. That is for the realization of our divinity. Everything now, pack up your things. You're going where? When the call comes, be ready. Be ready at any moment. This moment, the call comes, I'm ready. So before journey, we always take the Mother Durga's name. We say Durga, 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 because we are going to make a journey. So Ram Prasad is telling, I have packed up my things, everything finished. I have all settled my business over, everything. I have packed up my things. I'm ready, waiting for the call. The moment the call comes, I have cast out. I'm ready. Ready am I to sail life's sea, crying to Mother Durga, victory. Durga Mai ki Jai, Kali Mai ki Jai. Say and get out of this world. Our life is blessed. Krita Kritya. We have achieved what has to be achieved as a human being. That is divinity. In all the other species, we only enjoy. We have no capacity to look ourselves, objectify ourselves, to stand aside and look at our own psychophysical organism as something different, as objective. This capacity only a human being can. And that's the blessings of human body. We have to be grateful. We have risen ourselves to the highest rung of evolution. Now, just call Mother and take her name and say goodbye to the world. This is what Ram Prasad is telling us to do. Thank you.
After a few announcements, we'll have the candlelight offering ceremony to Mother Kali, led by the Sarada Nuns. This week we have yoga class, I believe, on Thursday at 10 a.m. We'll have the spiritual evening discussion this coming Friday night, led by SCHNERRING. Now, next Sunday, we've been announcing about a Bhagavad Gita retreat, but for a few reasons, we've had to change that program. What will happen now is that SCHNERRING will give a talk on chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, the yoga of meditation. That'll be the theme for the talk. That was the theme we were to study in the retreat. The reasons why we're not having the retreat is, one, we needed more people to enroll, and somehow not many this time. But I think more so we're not having it because our very dear, long-time friend and member and devotee of the society, Urmila Mehta, she is very sick in hospital from cancer. She is opted not to go for further treatment for various reasons, and doctors have readily agreed to that. So she's in her final maybe few weeks. So we are spending more time looking after her and the various needs that she has at this time. As you already know, I think almost all of you here will be on our list of people who know her well, getting updates. She's in the care of a very good social worker in the hospital. So, of course, we'll keep you informed about that. But we're just trying to keep ourselves a bit freer so we can be serving her. The following Sunday, we have the special event, What Happens to Our Kids When We Fail to Grow Up? That's the title of the latest book by Maggie Hamilton. And she will be sitting here together with Walter Mason. Walter Mason's going to interview her, and then we'll all have some discussion and question and answer time after that. And I think as you know, the general theme of the book is this trend of people failing to mature these days. There's a tendency for people to hold on to their childhood and not want to take on the responsibility or evade the responsibilities of adulthood. That's a bit of a trend that she's noticed and others have noticed, and we'll explore that. We have donation plate, donation box, and so now everybody will join us in the candle lighting ceremony. For those on Zoom, I will film that. and then stay back to get a share of the sweets and savours. You're okay. Are you able to manage everything with that?
Ask her to do it. Give it to somebody and then you can write it. So you can stand. You repeat after me. Kali, Kali,
Kali, Kali,
Mahakali,
Mahakali,
Bhadrakali,
Bhadrakali,
Namostute,
Namostute,
Kulam cha,
Kulam cha,
Kuladharmam cha,
Kuladharmam cha,
Mam cha,
Mam cha,
Palaya,
Palaya,
Palaya.
Palaya.
Kali, Kali, Mother Kali, Gentle Kali, our salutations to you. We pray that you protect our family, traditional values, and myself. We offer the candle, our heart